Hey class, so I wanted to talk to you guys today about the political parties and how they were competing for power. So by this point, you should remember that we have two parties. We have the Federalists, and the Anti-Federalists have a new name. They're now the Democratic Republicans. The Federalists want a strong central government. They want to have a loose construction of the Constitution. And they want to be able to have more of an industrial economy. On the other side, the Democratic Republicans want stronger states, a strict construction of the Constitution, and they want to have more of a farming economy. So Jefferson and Madison, both of which who are Democratic Republicans, were alarmed that the Federalists had sent troops to suppress the Whiskey Rebellion. They saw that as kind of like the federal government taking too much power into their own hands. And most common people, because most people were farmers, actually agreed with the Democratic Republicans. They didn't like to see that strong federal government enforcing taxes, etc., because that really reminded them of how the British had acted before. Also, most common people agreed with the most common people thought that the Federalists were going to give all of the wealth and power to the rich, and that farmers were going to basically kind of be left in the dust. The Democratic Republicans kind of offered more social mobility, so if you worked hard, you could kind of work up the ranks. All right, we're going to do that bell work tomorrow. And then I wanted to go over this just a little bit, talking about Native American conflicts. So during this time period, we have officially George Washington as president. There were still British forts in northern Ohio. So the state of Ohio today, up there, the British actually hadn't removed their forts, even though they were supposed to. And they were supplying the Native Americans to attack the U.S. frontiermen. So basically, people who were living in territories, not the states, were being attacked by Native Americans who were being supplied by the British. In 1790 and 1791, there was a war chief, a Native American war chief, and his name was Little Turtle. And he actually defeated U.S. troops in both of those battles. And finally, in 1794, at the Battle of Fallen Timbers, a United States general, General Wayne, defeated the Native Americans. Finally, we end up signing the Treaty of Greenville with the British that actually gives the U.S. most of present-day Ohio and officially removes the British from that region altogether. So that really is something that George Washington is known for, getting the British out of the northern Ohio Valley and moving them back into Canada. And then I also want to talk about the U.S. and the French Revolution a little bit, and our neutrality. So the U.S. and the French Revolution, in 1789, French peasants led a revolt to establish France as a republic instead of a monarchy. And they were actually inspired by us because they saw that we were able to kick the British out of our country and set up a democracy, or a republican democracy, with a president, etc., and actually where the people get to vote for their officials and their leaders. We saw France kind of as an ally in a world of monarchies. But France's revolution took a very bloody turn. In 1793, word of their revolution actually scared a lot of people, even people in America. Marie Antoinette and King Louis XIV were both beheaded. Their heads were cut off in public in front of crowds of people, and that was kind of seen as maybe a little too much by a lot of the people in America. The French revolutionaries also killed thousands of political opponents. So even if you were just somebody who disagreed, If you thought that there shouldn't be a republic in France, those people weren't just tarred and feathered, they weren't shamed, they were actually killed. Now, as you might expect, there were two different points of view in America. The Democratic Republicans saw this as a necessary evil. It's bad, but it's necessary for them to get the freedom that they want. The Federalists saw them as anarchists destroying religion and social order, that the murdering wasn't just on the battlefield, that this was actually something that was going too far and that regular people were being killed on the streets. So finally, the US kind of decides to stay neutral instead of getting fully involved. In 1793, the United Kingdom, or the UK, or England, that's all the same stuff, and France were at war. The US decides to proclaim neutrality because 90% of US imports were from Britain or the UK. So we decided to not really go with one way or the other, even though France expected us to take their side because they helped us win the Revolutionary War. As a result, the United Kingdom decides to test if we're actually neutral by capturing US ships that were trading with the French. As a result, John Jay, as you guys remember who John Jay is, one of the best lawyers in America at that time, decides to head up to England to try to kind of negotiate over this. So he sets up the Jay Treaty, named after his last name, in 1794, and there's three parts to it. You do need to know at least two of the three parts to the Jay Treaty. So the first part is that the United Kingdom, or Britain, would give up all of their forts in the Northwest Territory. So they would give up everything in Ohio, they would give up everything in Michigan, all of those areas. It kept the restrictions on US ships, saying that we were still mainly trading with England, and that we actually had to pay back the debts to the UK from the Revolutionary War. This is a very new idea, the idea that we, even though we won, that we should pay them back for how much money they spent trying to defeat us. So a lot of people thought that this treaty was actually better for which side? So I'll give you a second to kind of think about it. Is this treaty better for the Americans or better for the English? And most people thought it was actually better for the English and that it was kind of a bad treaty. But it did help us gain our territory back. There was also another treaty called the Pinckney Treaty, and that opened up trade and access to the Mississippi River with Spain. So that really helps us start to be able to grow our economy more and ship and sell more goods. So that's it for today. The big things I want you to remember for today, so go back over these again if you aren't sure, is that the Jay Treaty was between America and England, or America and the UK. It means the same thing. England had to give up their forts. Restrictions on US ships stayed, and we had to pay them back for the Revolutionary War. The other big thing is the French Revolution, which was bloodier than our revolution, and that the Federalists saw it as anarchy that was bad. Democrats saw it as basically a necessary evil. There was fighting in the Ohio River Valley over mainly Native Americans trying to get back land. And then last big thing was how the Democratic Republicans reacted to the Whiskey Rebellion being suppressed. Okay, so that's everything for today. Thank you guys for tuning in, and I will see you in class tomorrow. Have a nice day.